6-6.
This regular meeting of the Clear Creek Community Services District Board. It's September 18th, 6 o'clock. And who wants to do the pledge?
I did it last time.
Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Libby Johnston.
Beverly Fickus. Pam Beaver.
Scott
Okay. Terry Lincoln.
Paul Kelly, General Manager.
Emily Valdez, assistant.
Open time. Anybody go for it?
Sandy Winters, we're gonna have the Firewise meeting the 26th at the community center. We're gonna have some speakers from the fire department. If any of you have any questions or comments or things that you wanna bring up about our recent local fires, please come and attend and you can get a lot of information this time. I think it's gonna be very informative. Yes,
Deadline for turning in the worksheets?
November. And we need all we can get in order to get our recertification.
Sure.
So do lots of work, lots of cleaning, trimming. If you hire someone, you can put that down, how much you spend.
Yep.
And be sure and turn them in either at Bonnie Burgers or one of our meetings. Thank you.
Anybody else wanna talk? Okay. Consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I would just comment, there's a couple items in here for the check signers flag, so I'll let them speak to those. Also, just a report on our P&L or activity report. I think we didn't have it last month and we're hoping to have it this month. But we were able to engage a CPA, and CUSI has been very active in getting all of the accounts and transitions reconciled with QuickBooks, and so I know a bookkeeper was able to make all of the designated revenue transfers for the last 6 months yesterday, and so hopefully we will have be able to have a finance committee meeting in early October and have all of this stuff caught up for the October meeting.
So who flagged?
I flagged one, the SCADA invoice. That's software. I flagged it because I wanted the whole board and the community to know that we pay a fair amount of money for annual subscriptions to software. This is the SCADA for the arms or the oils and that. We had that project down there and transferred and saved money because we didn't have the AT&T bill anymore. But it went up to $4,700 a year just for that. And that's a significant increase. I just wanted people to be aware that we have to note those things for next year's budget, for the next up to 18. That was the main reason for that. What was the second one?
The tier 3 annual subscription to RWI. I don't think I tagged that one.
Well,
Rural water impact.
yes, it might have been that the flag got confused, but this one is the host of our website, and pretty darn reasonable when you consider how robust it is, and since even I can make modifications to it, it's also pretty easy for us to keep it updated.
I didn't see anything with the minutes. Everything looked good there. I didn't have anything else flagged or tagged, so I'm good with the consent agenda.
Do we
Okay.
need to,
Motion.
Happy?
I'm happy, yeah.
we need a motion to
Yeah.
accept the minutes? I move that we accept the minutes as,
Is everybody happy with them?
Yeah, I think
Well,
we have something.
We don't have to individually accept it, we can
It's
just,
the whole thing.
yeah.
Well, yeah, in case there was questions.
I don't have any questions about it. You?
No.
Okay, then let's have a motion.
I make a motion, we accept the minutes for the regular meeting of 8/21.
The minutes or the consent agenda?
The whole consent agenda?
The full consent agenda.
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Next item is our old business USVR account reconciliation item. Just, I'm gonna identify a couple of things. One, there's still nothing new on the 2022 reconciliation. We did get a communication from the Bureau that since their fiscal year ended, or is ending September 30th, that they asked us to get our water report for August and payment in. And so we did do that prior to September 13th. And then, just as a reminder, the Bureau has been very good at putting together this tour on Friday for all of the Shasta County water districts and utilities, and I know we've got some folks that are gonna be able to make it. So it's 10 a.m. as a reminder up at the Dam Visitor Center.
I'm gonna have to beg off. I know my wife and I were gonna go, but she's now out of town and I have signed up to be an election observer and I will be down at county office.
Training.
Training, yes.
do we know how long the tour is?
Well, it's 10 to 2, but they said it's really, not 10 to 2, 10 to noon.
Yeah, 2 hours.
So they said block off 2 hours, but it's really about an hour and 10 minutes, and it really depends on questions. Now, this has, it's been exceeded the popularity than I thought it would. We have RSVP 45 people.
Oh,
So it could take a little longer just because we have other people. They do have shuttle vans that'll take us to places, and they've got the elevator and stuff like that.
Be nice to hear afterwards about it.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna keep doing these kind of things. So, the next item, is, just, I don't know if it's interesting or not, but, I call this our district statement mailing insert policy. And I put a little background in here. As the board knows, when I got here, probably one of the more exasperating and frustrating things was to watch our staff try to fold and stuff our statements. And using a folding machine that was very old and on a long-term lease, we tried to get out of that lease. But in the end, we literally saved 22 cents a piece by having Harvest Printing take over. And we send them the PDF, they print it, we've given them the blue envelopes, and they fold those in there and stuff them, and they put in the newsletter. The district in the past has had Citizens Patrol drop off those nice colorful flyers, had them jam up the machine and spend hours of staff time getting them folded and stuff. So we did that for Citizens Patrol. We just had them drop it off at the Harvest, and that's when we found out, oh, it cost us an extra $50. So we covered it this time, but this last time we asked them to give us $50 to cover it. And then we had, since I've been here, we haven't had this request, but we had a request from the Boy Scouts to put a flyer in for their big meeting that they were having tomorrow night. Right. I think, or last night or tonight. So we did, and we asked Harvest, how much is this gonna cost? And Curtis said, well, it's probably another $200 just because it's an additional item. So we charged them $200 to cover the cost of pulling stuff. But it triggered in me this thing like, well, we had the flyer for the farmer's market that we covered the cost for, but it was a committee. We went to the board and said, yes, we thought it was gonna be $50. It was more because it was color and a bunch of other stuff. So we actually asked Harvest Printing, we said, can you give us just sort of a round figure? We know it's gonna fluctuate because we have a few more or less statements going out. So they've given us a quote that if somebody supplies them an insert, like the Boy Scouts or in this case even Citizens Patrol, it's $200. They figured it out and it's $200. If we give them a PDF, they print it on white paper, black and white, it's $225. It's on color paper, it's $270. And if they use color ink, like our flyer, it's $440, which is pretty much what a little bit less than it costs. So then Harvest actually said, I don't know if you as a district can do this, but you know, this is a really good deal. They're reaching 2,300 people for significantly less than it would cost them if they directly sent something to people. Now, we didn't tell them that not everybody reads our newsletter. Only about 5 or 10 people don't read our newsletter. So, you know, that triggered like, well, I mean, should we allow a business to pay for our mailing? Should we allow anybody to ask us for a mailing? So that's why I'm bringing this to you, just for some input. I mean, I'm recommending that we should have a policy for community groups, that they have to serve the Happy Valley community like Citizens Patrol. Or if the school, I'm kind of surprised the school hasn't asked us to send it out. They asked us to put something in our newsletter, but, and that we should at least get them to pay for the cost. What should we do about our committees? If our committees want something, the Ag Committee had something, now they got a survey that they're interested in having sent out or inserted. I kind of think they're a committee, they probably should be allowed to have a mailing or an insert, one or two. I kind of think the Finance Committee should put something in there as sort of a supplemental thing, almost a finance report.
Yeah.
You know, just so it's a different page and
Somebody might look at it.
yes. Took the word right out. So that's really why I'm bringing this to you here. I don't know if we could even go to West Valley Pizza and say, hey, you want to put in a flyer and it's $400 ink, you know, color, and it's another $300 of admin costs just to help supplement our costs, right? I don't even know if we can do that as a public agency, so I'm going to be a little cautious to mention that. But I do think before I now get barraged, because people will see, oh, hey, they got a Boy Scouts flyer in here, and they have a Citizens Patrol flyer. That's happened in the last 6 months, and we get others to ask us. Your opinion, welcome.
It's a good question, because I can see the Ag Committee doing 2 or 3 every year. Easily.
So one of the questions you ask is, should administration overhead rates also be included to defray district costs? And we don't really have any overhead because they're giving it directly to Harvest. So I would say no, but if you're wanting to lower the cost of our mailings, then that's something different. I also think that we have to be careful because you could have something political and you could also have something religious. And if you allow for one, you would have to allow for all. And that's where we have to be very, very careful, because there could be some very concerning posts or flyers that might go out. But also, there could be good ones, like a church is doing the Easter egg hunt or something for the whole community. So is that religious or is it community? So I think the policy does have to be written very carefully to hopefully allow for some of that. You know, I don't know if people would be offended by an Easter egg hunt by a church.
But it's done by the fire department, so we don't have to.
Yeah. Another concern would be it becomes successful and we have too many flyers and it doesn't fit the envelope, we get charged more because they have to change envelopes or something, so.
You get charged more per, yeah.
Yeah, newsletter items, maybe that's the route to go with some of that type of stuff and leave it for committees.
Yeah, I think if we say committees can have up to 2 per year, then you're kind of covering yourself, and like I said, I am thinking that now that I think the success of the ag committee having at least one, and they want to do a survey on agriculture stuff, I think a financial report, health card of the district from the finance committee could be pretty darn useful. And I'm actually thinking.
Would you do an annual or semi-annual?
Well, up to 2. Maybe 2. I also think, after we talked at the planning and steering committee about the, sort of a list of all the major repairs and other things that we're doing, the drought up, like maybe a flyer on that might be another added, educational.
I like that, especially when we're gonna start working on Prop 218.
Ag Director Fickus is very spot on. That's why I am kind of nervous and wanted to say, let's talk about this, because, in some ways, right now, I'm in a position of having to make sort of these ad hoc decisions. It was easier before, but now I think if you got a community group that serves the Happy Valley, Strawberry Festival, I don't know. I think if the fire department wants to do Easter egg hunt, yeah, okay, we can do that. And I think, obviously the Citizens Patrol, very important to our community. We want to support them too.
So what about on the back side of our newsletter itself? Could we sell little, business card size stuff? Or is that we just do that anyways? But, I was just thinking of church bulletins. They recoup their costs by charging, little, business card sizes on the back. And we've just done that, whether it's Firewise or whatever, the freebies. So.
Again, I think as a public agency, we gotta be a little cautious on that, and until I hear, I didn't think of it until Monday, but I did send an inquiry to our lawyers to see is there anything as a public agency? Because there's, your CFO here speaking, oh man, if I can get my neighbor to pay for it, great.
Yeah.
But, I don't wanna step into it.
I think one of the things that Beverly says, my frustrations, since we don't have yellow pages anymore, I just miss them dearly. If I wanted to support a business out here in Happy Valley, I don't know where they all are. I think it would be very interesting, Beverly's suggestion where we had, where they could buy, monthly business card on the back. Ad space. So to support your local businesses or something, I would think that might help, but I think it really would benefit it, because I would keep it just to make sure I would know those businesses.
Yeah.
But it just has to be, just real small where we could see it.
Caitlin, do you have something to?
I have a couple comments on it, yeah. I think it would be great for finance to have a flyer in there. I was thinking quarterly, but biannual would be fine too, just maybe when the budget comes through and then the budget review comes through to let people know where our cost of audit situation is. I think it's a good idea to charge people who are requesting to put it in there. It's gonna be a lot cheaper for them to go through us and have it go in with our own mailer versus them doing it private party. should stay away from political and religious stuff, but when it comes to like a community event, like an Easter egg hunt, or maybe a Christmas dinner, like if a local, whatever, organization's doing a Christmas dinner, or the chili feed, whatever, that I think is more a community event versus a religious situation.
So that's appropriate wording, I think, yeah.
The other thing is, if you have too many people wanting to do flyers at the same time, maybe offer them half sheets. So if one organization has the top half of the flyer, the other organization has the bottom half of the flyer, you then split the cost for them, so they're paying, $100 for the one, $100 for the other, and you're not having to add the extra of a secondary sheet.
Yeah, we could also do front and back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah, good idea.
So, along those lines, what is the limit of the number of pages that can go into this envelope that their equipment can fold and stuff properly?
And that will go into the postage.
Yeah,
We'll check on that. Right, this last mailer, we had a statement. One good news is our statement's on not super thick paper, and they printed our newsletter on reasonable paper. So we actually fit 4 sheets plus an envelope, all within the postage that you normally.
okay.
I thought there was only 2 sheets.
No, it's at least 3 or 4.
Yeah, there were 3.
We used to use those half envelopes, what are they? You know what I'm talking about?
The 6 by 9, you're talking the little ones?
No, you fold a piece of paper in half, and it fits in,
3 by 5 along?
no, 3 by 5,
No,
that's,
no, no.
a piece of paper is 8.5 by,
It's
whatever.
4 by 5.5.
Yeah.
4 by 5 and whatever.
You know, you could check and see what the
So like
cost would be, no, in half. Right like that,
Oh,
and that would be the end, but we used to send out all sorts of stuff in those, and it was cheaper than trying to get them in one envelope. You know, maybe we could, if we've got a lot of them, we could, use those instead.
That'd be a separate mailing, so there'd be separate postage too.
Well, you'd have to check with Harvest.
Yeah, okay.
so what's the advantage of that?
If you've got more than will go in a regular envelope.
You get it.
It's based on weight, Terry, so it doesn't matter the size, unless you're within a certain parameters. So it doesn't matter if it was this size or letter size, it's gonna be based on weight.
Right.
So if the weight's the same, it's gonna cost the same.
Right, but if you can't get it in a regular envelope, you have too much to get in a regular envelope, you could go to that next size up.
Well, we can tell them they have to wait till next month, because we haven't filled up for this month.
Hey, Sandy. Oh, go ahead.
One more comment on having like a list of local businesses, local, organizations on the list. I like that idea as well, but you don't wanna have too much of it where it starts getting cluttered and it starts looking like a nickel newspaper coming through for your monthly billing. But I do like that idea of knowing local electrician, local plumbers, or, handymans, yeah.
So that could be actually notifying people, saying, hey, would you like to do that? Have that full sheet and have all those cards, because then you could take your sheet and put it on your refrigerator too.
Mhm.
Just have it, instead of having it on the back of the newsletter, have an extra flyer.
Yeah, we definitely would look into ways in which, maybe we do that only on every 6 months.
Right, right.
Sort of offer businesses that ability.
Whatever we do, I think we should do what it costs us, and then $25, $50 for administration. I mean.
Well, there is time for either me or Annie to coordinate with Harvest and make sure everything is coordinated with that. So let's see what we can figure out.
The big thing is waiting on the lawyer though, right?
Yeah.
No.
Well, as it relates to the,
Ad space.
some sort of businesses or private sector element of things. I think I'll write up something and run it past you, but, I think it's a good policy to say, committees we wanna use an additional flyer for the committees to get information out. I think working with community serving nonprofits or even events, and we've talked to the school and at times just put it in our newsletter. They didn't want a flyer, they just wanted a little note in our newsletter. I think we'll do on that, but on the other part, we'll wait until we are.
I think the policy should probably include that the district has priority. So that any flyers that the district or committees want to put out, that they should have priority over community events and whatnot, if there's restricted space.
Terry?
Oh, yes, Sandy.
Years ago, we had a little newspaper out here called the Valley Voice. It was published by a man by the name of Ron Kagan. He lived on Sean Drive. It was mainly funded by the local businesses, but we did have a little buy and sell page, and people paid for that also, and it supported itself pretty well. I think they passed most of them out around the businesses, and then people could pick them up like at the grocery stores or wherever. I don't remember them mailing it out.
Where they used to have those little stands at the stores for the
Yeah, but
nickel
back
or
then, the
the penny
mailing wouldn't have
saver
been that
or
much
whatever.
expense anyway. It was, I can't remember what the postage was back then, but Beverly probably does. This would have been in probably the 70s and 80s.
Yep.
It was really successful. He moved to Palisadro, and he and his wife were in a motorcycle traveling club, and unfortunately, he was killed on his motorcycle, and that ended our newspaper. He was still publishing it though, even after he moved from the valley, and he had people like Brenda Bailey. She wrote an article every month on forest activities. Erwin Fuss wrote an article every month on certain things that were going on out here in the valley. It was things that people could use and do, suggestions and things written by professional people. But they were all, most residents out here like to get in on it for some reason, and or if they wanted to publish something, advertise something for sale or wanted, they could do that. And I can't remember the exact fees, but it seemed like it was $1 for an ad, but like I say, the expenses were less back then than they are now. That's just an idea. We could publish a page and call it a newspaper, but it wouldn't have to be a newspaper. Just something we could put around the stores and businesses. And I'm sure the businesses would all want to take out a little ad and pay a little fee to publish something. And then when we first started Firewise 2 years ago, August 27th, during the Peter fire, I went to a publisher on Bocelli Lane, right across from the bowling alley, and I needed flyers made up to advertise our first Firewise meeting. He did it for free because he lives out here.
Oh.
I can't think of it. Erwin Buss was the one that told me about this printer, and I took advantage of that. I had all our first flyers printed right there for free. Just a suggestion.
Yeah. All right, I think I got, yeah.
Sorry, real quick, just thinking about this. We were talking about pricing and building in admin overhead or whatever cost on top of whatever the cost was for harvest to do the stuffing. Sounds like we're looking at doing 6 committee flyers annually.
Well, I would say as needed, you know.
I mean, as needed, but if we're going to say, okay, biannual per ag committee, seems like we could probably do quarterly on certain things and that nature. But it seems to me that admin cost, you should take a look at funding the budget for stuffers for the committees out of that revenue. Okay.
We've also got to consider citizens patrol, Firewise. They can be eating up other opportunities also, so my only concern is that we don't get it too fat.
No, what he's trying, his point is.
I know his point, I understand his point, because you've got the ag committee, the finance committee, possibly planning and steering, we all did just semi-annuals.
Right.
But you're saying that the fee should go to support them, nothing
Yeah,
else.
yeah. Right. Yeah, that's what I heard.
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah. No, I don't, let's get rid of it, actually.
So what kind of action would you like from us this evening?
Nothing, I just conversation, some direction, we'll bring something back and. But you can imagine why we needed to talk about this, because I can just see it coming down the line. All right, next item is, district grants update, and, about 2 months ago, after we had, received, approval for the, grant anticipation loan for the Backwash Ponds project, I had suggested that I give you, an update. Board members get kind of an update on a regular basis, and I put it in my GM report, but I thought I would do one a little bit separate. So, the first is the Backwash Ponds project. So up at the wastewater treatment plant, the district has 3 ponds. For those of you that have been up there or stood on the Whiskeytown Dam, you can look down and see our treatment plant. It's got the big yellow round tubes that have, which is the filters, and then above that are these 3 ponds. There was some damage in the car fire to a couple of the ponds and a couple of the items around it. The FEMA through California Office of Emergency Services, or Cal OES, has come up with $2 million for fixing these ponds. We also received a grant from the state of California. At the time, it was also about $2.5 million for fixing these ponds. Great, Pace Engineering about 4 years ago started working on some engineering and cost estimates. That was what was put into the state grant. Then last year, I believe it was early 2023, after lots of conversations with the state, I finally got them to get us a funding agreement. So we signed the funding agreement, which then triggered Pace to be able to do the engineering. The engineering was completed in the end of 2023. We put it out to bid at the end of 2023, and in December or January, we awarded the bid to Allen Gill Construction. There were 3 bids. One was $5.2 million, one was $5.1 million, and Allen Gill was $4,985,097. So clearly they didn't round like the others did. But they were the lowest responsible bidder. Now that we had an actual construction bid amount, we went back to the state. We went to the federal government too, but the federal government is so gummed up with just giving us extensions and reviews and making sure that what their $2 million is handled correctly, that they didn't want to deal with an increased construction costs. Plus, they said they would not pay for the concrete lining of the ponds, that they would only pay for replacing what was there, which was a dirt lining, which seemed kind of ridiculous to spend millions of dollars and just put back the same thing that got damaged before. Plus, one of the impacts, just kind of maybe back to, if you do drive down on Page Bar Road, you'll notice to the west is the utilities, our ponds, and our treatment plant. But to the east is now a fairly bare mountain. It used to have a lot of trees on it, and it got torched in the car fire. So there is a significant amount of water that comes down off of that, doesn't get absorbed by the trees, runs under the road, and has infiltrated our ponds. In other words, it'll come up through our pond. So with concrete, it'll reduce that impact. Long and short of it, the state did approve another $1.2 or $3 million in increased construction costs. So now our grant is $6 million to cover construction of $5 million, and the other engineering and oversight costs. As the board knows, we did get a grant anticipation note from the RCAC. This is to help smooth out the funding of it. For those that aren't aware, when, let's say, Allen Gill Construction does, in this case, a couple, months, 6 weeks worth of work, they turn in a bill, for $1 million plus, and then you take out 5% retention, and so we sent Cal OES a request for $900,000, plus another $200,000 for engineering services. They have promised that they will get back to us within 90 days, reimburse us within 90 days. In a lot of former lives, I've dealt with this, and if the state gets you money in 120 days or more, less than 6 months, you're really swinging good. So this way, we can pay our contractor within that 90 days. We use this loan, we pay the interest on the loan, and then we get, it's like a line of credit, you get reimbursed from the state and federal government, you buy down your loan amount. Currently, Pond 3 has been cleaned out, and their forms have been set, and there's a couple pictures in your packet of them doing the clean out work. There's a picture on the second page up at the top where they're just about ready to start setting forms. The bottom page, there's a picture of them pouring at least one of the forms. They still are actually a little behind schedule. They're waiting for a couple products, but as of yesterday, they'll be pouring it really significantly for about 3 or 4 weeks. Again, this got to get done by the first week of November. You got to test it and put it online, and then construction stops through the winter and the spring. They'll remobilize and come out and do the next pond, which is pond number 2, which is, if you're looking at the top of the second page of pictures, that's the pond on the right-hand side. So that's the next one down, and then there's a smaller one down below that. So the plan is for pond 2 to be completed by this time next year, and then there's all the paperwork and closeout documents. We're scheduled based on the funding agreements to close this one out by the end of the first quarter of 2026.
Will the work done this year, and the interest that we incur, will that be part of the reconciliation at Centerville?
Yeah, it's gonna be a separate thing. We still haven't figured out how, they're aware of it. We just have to figure out how to do it. We're not gonna do it as part of the water transfer stuff, but, yes. So ultimately, as the board knows, the decision is we're getting a $6 million improvement on our facilities for the cost of interest on that loan, which is calculated to be about 120,000, of which we're gonna bill Centerville for half that. Or 25%.
25%.
We also were able to convince the state in their updated funding agreement to pay for the fees on the loan. So there's about $30,000 in fees that they'll reimburse us for as well. So the other grant I wanted to mention, since I've been here, the first one we actually got moving on. The next one we not only got moving on, but we've completed. So that's the South Booster Wells Emergency Electrical and SCADA grant. Bill Palamesa, when he was the acting general manager, applied for and got the state to allocate $477,000 of emergency drinking water grant monies back in early 2022. But there was no funding agreement until we had a lot of conversations in early 2023. We finally got authorization to start on the project. They didn't sign the funding agreement until July of 2023 and said we had to have the project done by the end of 2023. But then they extended it to the first quarter of 2024. Couple of elements of this one, starting at the wells. All the wells had to be started by staff to go down there and start them. Now we have soft starts that will start them. One of the other real components of this is to be able to run 2 wells at the same time and moderate and control using SCADA to be able to control them. So in other words, you could run one well at 800 GPMs and the other one at 900 or something like that. We also installed a fiber communications line from the wells up to the south booster, and now all that information can be put in onto the internet and through that SCADA software that you saw earlier. We also connected the south booster station through the internet. We did spend money on a firewall to make sure it's protected, and we just canceled the AT&T line that we were paying $350 a month on.
When we originally were looking at that, that was 1,100 to 1,200 a month.
Yeah.
And I had originally got it dropped to about 87
Yeah.
using the disadvantaged district criteria.
Good.
But I noticed that when we were doing bills, that it had gone back up significantly, so it's good to see that we're able to save that money and apply it towards the software annual fee.
Yeah, we have some issues with AT&T up at the treatment plant since they're our only alternative. We actually did finally get somebody engaged at AT&T. I had a good meeting with them, and we're talking about some alternatives up there. And I'm familiar with a thing called CalNet. I thought it was only useful for procuring equipment. It's kind of state procurement stuff, but also we can procure some telephone stuff and through them too. So that may be another way, other than the disadvantaged community, but on top of that, to get some money saved. Back to the south booster, we installed all new programmable logic control panels, or PLCs, if you see that term. We have a new vault and a new valve and meter outside of the booster station, and it's all connected to the SCADA system. It was all completed and tested, and it's operational. There's some pictures. You'll see the first page of pictures is just some folks from the state. You see Bill there holding open the vault door to the east of the pump house, and then a picture inside, which is actually where a meter is. We did not actually have a meter that went from the booster pumps out into the system. And then inside, you'll see there's just the PLC or the panels. Well, a good project and closed out. We also there were some punch list items, some items still for the electrician to work on, and they've already been paid, and they're going to be finishing up some of those at Bill's direction here in the coming months. The next one I was just going to update you on is the distribution system assessment grant. Also something filed for back in 2021 or 2022. PACE with the district put together a list of items to study for the distribution system. The state called us in February of this year and said, we have a big budget problem, so we're not even going to look at this one until next year. I did take a quick look at it again, actually reading through it, and we need to probably amend it and adjust the grant because it doesn't fit. One portion of the grant application was asking for registers and transponders for some meters, and we got that through the ARPA grant. And that's the next one, which is the American Recovery something Act. That the county took $2 million of some of that money and distributed it to the water districts in the county. 266,000 of that went to the Clear Creek. We allocated some money for registers in last year's budgets and this year's budget, about $50,000 total. To match that, I think I mentioned that one of the things that we did not expect and are not budgeted yet for was the cost of sales tax on purchasing all of those products. We have received most of the meter endpoints and transponders and registers. They're, sitting in storage. The state has reimbursed us for, just about all of the county, all of the, cost. But, as you know, we've had a lot of staff turnover, so we're still trying to get our meters and reading down. Once we got that down, Morgan, our, distribution supervisor, is chomping at the bit to, start replacing all these, because she's got a list and she's ready to go, but that'll be, already some of them have been replaced, some of the ones that are failing, but, pretty excited that we'll get that done here in the next few months. And then I had reported to the board that I wrote a grant application called the Wildfire Resiliency Grant Application to the EPA. This was for $495,000. This was to do an assessment of our wildfire resiliency around here. In other words, look at all of our hydrants, look at our storage, look at all of those things. If we ever had a fire here, how would we deal with that, suppress that? I was going to use that as a justification for us needing more storage, actually, and seeing if we can get grants for more storage. So we'll apply again, but we got denied, turned down. So that's for the community and for you all. A quick update on grants. I do think that the district should consider pursuing maybe even a solar grant or something to do related to that, or at least some sort of proposal for solar out here.
You're talking mainly just for this building and these facilities?
Well, I actually think we should consider the treatment plant and this building.
Okay. That would be,
Treatment
really
plant
a
gives us a lot of
distinct
power.
array.
You know, we have a company out here that is a solar company. They live right on Olive. I wonder if they would have any knowledge of grants that would be available. They're the ones that put in all the ones at the market on, the corner of Happy Valley and all.
Yeah, I've been watching them put those in.
Yeah.
I do need to contact them. Some of this is triggered by the fact that the Ag Committee, last week, RCD mentioned that there is grant funds available for farming operations who are looking to put in wells and solar. There's solar backup power for your wells. So I was thinking, well, maybe there'll be some grants coming.
The name of it's HUFFIT.
Say that again?
HUFFIT.
They have an office at the corner of 273 and North Street.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that office.
Yeah, they're an offshoot, a breakaway. The kids work with them, Dad's company.
But, you can say, I know you live out on Olive, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's good contact. All right, the next item is, again, this agenda, we have mostly just reports. The board might recall that about 6 months ago, I came to the board and said, I don't think we've done any assessment of our water loss in the system. And I showed you the start of a spreadsheet, and that though we are not required by the state to do a water loss report, because we're not an urban district, it's just good practice and good management practice to do it. And that I was going to do it from the treatment plant to the meters, from payments back to the meters. So this is a very busy spreadsheet, I realize that, and I know for those of you that are looking at it in black and white, it's probably hard. So here's some color copies if you're interested. I gave the board some color copies. I also have a description of the columns in my memo, but I'll quickly go through them. If you start on the far left, of course, you have your month. And I'm doing this, by the way, by the water year. Again, never underestimate the federal government's desire to keep people confused. The water year is March through April. Their fiscal year is October 1 through September 30th.
March first through February.
February. So, this is the water year 2023-2024. So we start with March and we go through February of 2024. So the first column is actually the price per unit that we were charging for that month. And you can see we were still in our drought rate in March. We then reduced it April and May, and then we got it down to where we were settled in June. The next is just your M&I, and then I have an MCCC M&I, and that is actually stands for McConnell, just because I wanted to keep a little bit of track of it, even though it's also M&I, and then our ag irrigation. And so with that next column, this is what we report to the Bureau. For example, it's probably maybe more confusing, but just as easy. If you look at June, we reported to the Bureau 175.86 acre feet of M&I that the district purchased from the Bureau. We also reported 50 acre feet of M&I that we purchased from McConnell, and we reported 60.08 acre feet in ag water for that month. So 285.94 is the total number of acre feet that we report to the Bureau that went through the treatment plant. That's what enters into the conduit. Those that sign checks know that we pay the Bureau for whatever their M&I rate is at 175.86, and then we pay their ag rate for 60.1 acre feet. We paid McConnell on that month $250 an acre foot. So then the next column is North Booster. So if you look at the top heading, it's the North Booster in acre feet. So once the water gets through the conduit and gets to the North Booster, that's at the top of the mountain, right? That's up at Happy Valley, Clear Creek Road and Cloverdale Road. Got a big 4 million gallon tank. We then have a meter that it goes through and it goes to the district. So unfortunately, the next time we meter it is when it gets to our customers. So this number includes both the water flowing down the hill and the water going through the boosters up the hill to the transfer station, the school, the Idaho school, and the Veterans Memorial Cemetery. So that's the actual water that gets into our system. Again, one of the things that is challenging, which is why you have to look at this over a 6-month or a year period of time, is that we read our meters on the 3rd week of the month. So everything gets reported, first to the 30th or whatever, the beginning and the end of the month, but everything on the meters get read like the 3rd of the month, so you kind of have to get that blended over a period of time, because when the meter's read, it actually includes the last week of the previous month and then the first 3 weeks of this month. So the next column is just a quick projected revenue. In other words, that takes, in the case of June, it takes your 52 cents per unit of M&I or domestic water and multiplies it by the 50 or the 175 acre feet. So that gives you just kind of a round number. So then you've got your big mark in the middle, so that's where we stop and we go now to build units. So that is what the meters tell us. Oh, it's right.
Greg went into the rest.
Oh, okay. So it tells us what went through the meters. And so that's what gets read in the meters. That's what gets sent out in our bills. And by the way, that's where we get sort of our billed acre feet. So you just back that out and you take your meters and you divide it by 435.6. There's a little difference column there. Okay, and then the next column is your customer revenue from our P&L. So you see every month, right? You see our domestic water sales and our ag water sales up at the top, right? You get your base rate, domestic and ag water sales. So these are our P&L numbers that we get as revenue, and these are these are pretty set, because February was right before we converted to CUSI, so we don't have that, quite as much of that messed up. And then you get your difference between what was billed and what was brought in. And again, for June, we billed, $43,652.96 in domestic water use. We received in revenue $30,950, so we got $12,000 less than what we billed. Well, that's a little bit of a misnomer, right, because there's a lot of rollover in different days. But so let me just keep going. You get your acre foot from revenue, and then you get your shortages. And so it's best to really look all the way down at the bottom line, because it combines all of those together and gives you, it kind of smooths out the differences when you read meters and the rest. But one thing you will notice in the body of this is, as you come down to July, you'll see a lot of negative numbers there. In other words, if you look at the far right column, because we were definitely bringing in less than what we were billing. Then, at the end of June, beginning of July, the board authorized moving the account clerk to full-time, specifically tasked with delinquencies, shut-off notices, and getting help from the state for paying your bills. And as I've reported to you almost every month for the last 9 months, LEWOC, which is the low income housing, water, probably over that period of time gave the district over $100,000 worth of payments for delinquent bills. And so you will see that starting in August, it paid off having somebody go full-time and deal with that stuff, because we consistently had more revenue than we had, than we billed. Because that's revenue from 2021, 2022.
Yep.
Until January.
Yeah, before that. So if you look at the bottom line and you start at the left, we reported to the Bureau 2,288 acre feet. Through our North Booster pump station, we had 2,249 acre feet, or a loss of 39 acre feet of water, which is about a 2% loss. So in the water world, 2% loss is really negligible. It's really not that bad. Now, this actually may go away. Well, first of all, there could be some anomalies at timing of meter reads. There could be Centerville, some differences between months and different things. But most likely, this is loss in the treatment plant. So during this year, Bill found that, and the Bureau actually pointed out to them, that they just wanted the number of acre feet that came into the treatment plant. We previously were subtracting, so we take an acre foot, or 10 acre feet in, and then we send an acre foot back through the backwash and send that to the pond, and we would subtract that acre foot. Then we took what came out of the ponds back through and into the system and added that amount in. Guess what?
Twice then.
No, we took an acre foot out, sent it to the ponds, right? You would think an acre foot would come from the pond back through the filter. Sometimes it was really 0.9, 0.8 acre feet. Because guess what was happening in the pond?
Evaporation.
Evaporation also.
So the Bureau said, hey, wait a minute, we're paying for that evaporation. Because you said 10 minus 1 plus 0.8, so now you're paying us, 9.8 reporting to them. So they want the 10. So we think that this 2% was really all that evaporation and may be changed. Long and short is projected revenue from that would be about 560,000. So if you look past the bar there, you'll see that what went through the meter was 1,941 acre feet. That's what went through all of our customer meters. So I do have that we rough calculation, we had about 14 acre-feet lost in leaks.
That's about right.
Yep, and we had about 6 acre-feet lost in our flushing program. So the difference from the north booster station is about 287 acre-feet, which is a 13% water loss. Now, if you look at it from the far right coming in the other direction, all of those delinquencies and $100,000 from LEWAP kind of makes it look interesting. It looks like we actually collected $77,000 more than what we billed. But that is, some of that helps make up for the money that was identified in our FY22 audit. You might recall there was $136,000 of unreconciled accounts receivable. In other words, that's accounts receivable that was booked. In other words, it was billed but not received, and it kept rolling out through the years. So in some ways, it's bottom right because of all of that excess revenue because of the LEWAP and others is not helpful. But the most helpful thing is to know that we're very close to about 13% water loss in the system. That's a lot. I will tell you that the industry standard averages 8. So 5 to 8 is considered kind of within your realm of possibilities, and so I think we got to do this again for this new water year, and we'll have a lot more information as we go into the future. Some districts actually use these calculations to help with a water usage calculation. In other words, you add another couple pennies per unit to cover the water loss, and there's the difference between what you're paying the Bureau and what you're billing. Yep. And then the other, some districts just go to the state and say, what is the acceptable Prop 218 version, and the state will say, well, industry standard is 8. If you put 5% into your rates, then it'll be defensible. Some districts don't do it. Tony Tomasi was here and will be back next week. He tells me that the last time they did a calculation in the city of Shasta Lake, they were at like 9.8%. They were on the high side of water loss.
Sorry.
Very good information, I think, and I hope it's helpful to you and to the community.
It is helpful, I appreciate this. For a point of clarity, that 13%, does that include the 2% evaporation of the ponds? Or are we really at about 15%?
Well, yes, that's loss in the system, so I calculate it as from the booster, so yes, we've already removed the 2%.
Okay, because I believe from my research that most water districts, that 8% that's the standard, it would include that 2%. So we're really about 7% over.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you would be at 15%.
Right, we'd be at 15%. So that's a number that we could possibly use if we're having to adjust for water rates. So 5% is kind of realistic.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments? Yeah, I think I'm surprised the district hasn't done this before, but I'm glad we're figuring it out.
Well, it helps us identify and oscillate justification for grants for the distribution system. Because if we're losing 7% in there somewhere, there must be underground leaks that are not being detected.
Well, as I put in my background, there's a lot of reasons to do this. One, for future rate setting, I think you should have at least a recognition that you've got some sort of water loss in the system. Whether you do anything about it or not, at least have it recognized. Number two, the ability to get grants should be enhanced by reporting the number of leaks that we have, the volume of water, and the general water I wanted that fire resiliency, grant as well, is that, this district has some very natural zones. We have a very natural north zone, which is basically China Gulch. We have a very natural central zone, Hawthorne, Scout, and those areas, and we have a very natural southern zone. You should at least have a meter and a valve at every one of your zones, so that I can then say, okay, north booster to the 3 meters zones, how much is lost between there?
Sure.
And then I can calculate more fine loss, 'cause my guess is we may have an underground leak somewhere in the canyon that we have no idea where it is.
Yeah.
And until you isolate out that, it's hard to really calculate. Also, this is very helpful because we have all new staff and, we are reinvigorating and making more accurate our meter reading. I think what this will show in the future year is that, there may have been, some meter reading practices that underreported. There may have been some meter transponders that have been out of commission a lot longer than we thought until we replaced them with new ones. And some other elements like that.
Okay. I can see the state taking this information and from a conservation approach, offering us some grant money to help mitigate this water loss.
Yeah.
Can I defer a little bit from this, cause on here you, also add on here how much we lost from flushing. I know that you started a flushing schedule
Yeah.
that had not been flushing for God knows how long. Are we still on keeping that up?
Yeah. I think there's one of the value of the flushing program is it cleans out your sediment. Gives you a chance to exercise some of your valves and some of your, hydrants. Gave us a chance to find out we have some hydrants that don't work. So the plan is to do that again this January and February. The other thing that's supposed to be part of your flushing program is a valve exercise program. Because valves that are just left open for years and years and years, and then when you need them, they are stopped. So another thing that hasn't been done in this district that I can speak, so. Morgan is on this too, so.
Thank you.
All right, next is the GM report. I'm tired of hearing myself talk, so can you just read that and then move on? I do want to just acknowledge that we do have a new account clerk, Lisa Thralton. Hopefully some of you have met her. She's picking it up quick and doing a great job. And I know we're leaving Amity of being the only one in the office for a few weeks there. We did offer a position and was accepted for a operator D2, an experienced operator who moved actually into the district and starting in the next week or so. And also we have another D1 that's starting in a bit. And we had one of our staff members not pass their certification test, so they had been given extensions to pass their test, and that ends the end of this week. Somewhere down at the bottom of this thing, I mentioned our surplus property disposal last month. I came to you to say I was gonna scrap the generator. We posted it on the website for 2 weeks. We had opened it up for proposals. We had multiple inquiries. Most people, may or may not, threw out some numbers. Most of them were kind of wanting it for nothing and just pick it up. But we had a proposal to pay us $1,500 and pick it up and transport it to Oregon and sign for the fact that it ended up in Oregon. So.
Just for you guys, the state told us we had to get it out of California.
Could not use it.
It became scrap the minute they wouldn't permit it, basically.
Yeah.
All right, so on the operations report, Amy, do you want anything to add?
Kenny,
Yeah.
are you still on that page 1 of your notes?
Oh, sure.
I wanted to know about the auditor. Was there any update after that letter you sent the auditor about?
Not yet,
Not yet, okay.
but I could use this time to say that, you know, the board might recall that, the auditor had suggested that we get some CPA help. We sent out an RFP for CPA help, we got no response, thanks to, a guy by the name of Dave Wallace, who, volunteered some time as a CPA from out of state, did a nice review and reported on some more specific items that a CPA could do. So we used that and sent that out to, a wider list of, CPAs. And we got at least 3 responses. We got a proposal from a CPA firm in Sacramento, and then, a proposal from, Martin, Jeff Martin, here in town. And, we signed an agreement with them, and they started this week. So,
Full disclosure, my daughter works as bookkeeper there. She doesn't do the CPA stuff, just so you know.
Well, they're gonna do, the journal entry help. They're gonna clean up the accounts receivable things that were brought up in the audit. They are gonna reconcile, as much of that as they possibly can, give us a report on everything that, you know, is there something we should write off, is there something that we should carry in a long-term receivable book. They also are gonna do the pre-audit. They are aware that we want to do a pre-audit so that we can get the FY23 audit done this fall. The letter was sent to the auditor, we just haven't heard back from them. But we're ready when they call. All right, the operations report, you can see, Andy's got the top portion. Do you have anything you want to add?
No, I think that pretty much sums it up. We are working very hard, getting everything addressed. We did get through all of our issues. We had like 15 customers that were not moved in. They were waiting status, and we got that all cleaned up, got all the accounts corrected. We're just moving on. Lisa is amazing. She's catching on quick, and I think she's a real asset to the group, so.
Yeah, the numbers were a little high.
Yeah.
So we're beginning to do lockouts again?
Yep, we will be starting that shortly. We're doing our billing next week, and then we will start, proceeding with the shut-offs and everything.
I think you can see that, for last month, we had 430 acre feet of surface water as reported by Bill. And then you can see this is our distribution supervisor Morgan Riles' first swing at it, and she's got some highlighted items there. The big thing that really has just a comment on it has been the meter reading. Morgan stepped in, she's got experience at the city of Anderson of doing meter reads, so I think she was really dismayed at how there was so many challenges. Looks like a lot of them were triggered by just, sort of a factor in the new system that was incorrectly put in there, and it impacted a bunch of our meters. So I think we got a much better handle on it, hopefully. I think I mentioned to the board that we had purchased an iPad, basically not an iPad, but a tablet that was gonna also be a reader, and until Tony and Morgan got here, it had never been used because nobody had downloaded the drivers on it to get it to work, and turns out it only has one antenna, it doesn't have the other antenna. So we're rectifying a lot of that stuff. September 11th. It was a follow-up olive meeting, and I think the main thing I would report to the board is we had a really good presentation from the Shasta RCD Executive Director and an offer to help look for some grant monies, but what she said, I need to know what to ask for, and so they came up with an idea to do a survey that we'll send out in the next newsletter, and they also will probably do a workshop after that, and I think there's some industry interest in putting themselves together, and pretty much from here, it's gonna up to the industry to go. We've done our job in many ways facilitating it. We got other agricultural products to work on in Happy Valley, so we'll let the olive industry kind of take this from here and see if they want to create an association or what.
I did get that, you probably were copied on that email from Dennis Cosine for the, survey.
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
He
Logan,
did.
Did you get it?
I did not check my
Okay.
personal email there.
I cleared it out, we'll look it over, he wanted to see if this was something we were agreeable to.
Okay.
So we need to review it and see if we wanna move forward with this particular one. And then probably discuss how we're getting it out to the olive growers. We don't need to put it in the building because, you know, it only needs to go out to about 50 people. And other things with ag, we had last Saturday our 6th farmers market. Went fairly well. It's doing nice. 80 plus customers coming through. People are bringing bags to go shopping, so that's nice. I'll be reaching out to them and to Bonnie's Burgers and try to set up a time frame and whatnot for next year. Whether we start the 1st of May or, you know, whatnot. And since this is being recorded, as we get this done, we need more fruits and vegetables being sold there. We have a nice variety of items, but a farmer's market really needs to have produce there too. So, now's the time to think about that and plan and grow some extra stuff for next year. It will sell there, people are looking for it. And I think that's just about all of the ag to me.
Anything else?
I have nothing else.
Okay. I do think the ag committee may have one more meeting before the end of the year. I'm gonna suggest we might wanna see if we can get Dr. Harrell to come and do something on
Yes.
livestock.
We really need the survey brought back and to try to see if there's enough interest in the communities to form an association, co-op, whatever.
Yeah.
We'll try and wrap that up before we move on into anything else.
Yeah, and if so, then we can apply for a grant to cover the cost of the formation.
Good. Finance committee, because we are still trying to resolve the CUSI and QuickBooks stuff, but we expect to have one probably the second week of October. So keep your eyes open for that. We'll coordinate on that. The planning and steering committee, as you know, we had a really good meeting to talk about extraordinary operations and maintenance as well as the drought plan. So we'll do something in October or November because we've got time to work on that. And that's it. So the rest is from the board. Board member items.
I'm sorry, yeah, before you did that. In your report, you mentioned hiring another D1 along with the D2.
Yeah.
Was there a reason for that? Are you anticipating the one D1 who has not reached their minimum certification won't do it?
No, as I reported to the board, we had 3 people in that department, and we were going to, regardless of what happened to those 3, we were going to at least recruit one more for 4,
A D2
to get a
D3.
D2.
Right.
And then, so we've hired a D2, we've actually hired a D1, because, one has already not passed their certification. But we do not want to be in a situation in which we don't have enough people certified and we don't have any pool of candidates to pull from, so that's why we're
understand.
still hiring.
I'm trying to make sure that we're staying within the budget.
Yeah, ultimately, like we reported, and I showed you before, the previous D3, T3 position is in our budget as a 3/4 time the distribution.
Right.
Since that person's not there, we can have 4, but yeah, we're definitely sensitive to that, but we also wanna make sure we don't get in a situation like we were before where we had no department.
I understand.
So Chairman, oh, go ahead.
You got anything over? No.
Okay, I have 2 things. We were signing invoices today and looking at some of the things. And so 2 things that came up that I wanted to share. It appears that we're finding a lot of things that need to be repaired, being identified, and we're fixing them. But I just wanted to make sure that the dump truck, for example, had no airbag. So it's like, why did our dump truck not have any airbags, and why wasn't that identified? So at least we've got a good supervisor that's, looking at, the windows wouldn't roll down. I mean, it's just some of those things, you just wonder what the heck is going on. There were so I guess I got 3 things. I did notice we ordered a lot of safety items, and I just wanna make sure that it's within our budget, because I just wanna make sure that we're not going over our budget, or that it comes, I don't know if it's supposed to come to us to approve if we're going over budget or what, but it just seems like we're getting pretty close to going over. The other thing that I noticed was the well price PG&E drop.
Yeah.
And it went from $5,000 last month to $200. So can you explain that to us, what the dealio with that was?
Yeah, this, basically, I think I put a sticky on that, trying to just mention it. For some reason, the standby, charge for this last month dropped to like 1 or 2 hours at the rate, instead of previously, it used to be in the 50 or 60 hours standby charge. I suspect it'll go up, but, we did put an inquiry into PG&E, but, yeah, we didn't use it, so maybe we shouldn't have to pay.
Oh, so that was the reasoning, was that since we didn't?
No, it's a standby charge.
Yeah, I know, but we didn't actually, even in that month, it just happened to be where it did. We took a water sample right before the previous month ended, and we took a water sample right afterwards, so literally it never even turned on, so that was what we were told is the reason for this.
Okay, it was nice, but it was, we'd like to see that every month.
I thought we had negotiated, with them that instead of being that 5,000 to 1,500 a month standby, we were dropping it down to about 2,800 a month.
Yeah, it's been running.
For it to be one back up to 5,000 is surprising to me.
Yeah, it did, we got a bump. Now, again, that was as a result of that grant. We had to run the wells for
I understand that.
so that's why.
But they charged us when we ran them too.
Oh, yeah.
So if we're not
But-
running them and the standby's that high, I'm wondering if, after a certain length of time, they're rolling back to a preset and not taking into consideration the disadvantaged district and whatnot. And maybe we need to have them set that at a minimum of 1 year instead of quarterly or something.
It could be. Well, the other thing is you're always hesitant to ask too many questions when they realize they made a mistake and then they go back and move forward.
Yeah, TJ's going, yeah.
Yeah. And next month it'll be an $8,000 bill.
Yeah, exactly. If there aren't any other items, I just mentioned to the board, we have posted a closed session, item. This is the start of our, public employee, performance evaluation, as the board and the community recalls. In my employment agreement, it calls for an annual performance evaluation to be done in October. So the board will be getting, the forms and all the rest of that stuff. So there will be no action done after this, so feel free to leave. Because the only announcement you're gonna get at the end is, the board got the documents for their evaluation, and we'll adjourn the meeting and I'll write down the time, so. I just wanted to introduce that so nobody was hanging out there. Plus that way, we can just use this room for that.
Yeah.
Before we close, does anybody?
Anybody have any questions?
Thank you
Okay.
for coming. It's good to see you guys.
TJ didn't say nothing.